Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Healing Honey if it's your first time here. So today, guys, let's talk about having a dark night of the soul. This is the not so fun part of a spiritual awakening. And I think a huge misconception is that when you awaken to yourself and the world, when you come into all of these realizations about our life journey, our spiritual path, your mind is open to new things. We can think that's it, but what I've been finding in my own life is that there's going to be ongoing epiphanies and ongoing awakenings. You're going to have new self-realizations throughout your journey. If you think about ascension, spiritual ascension, it's like a ladder and you're climbing the ladder, right? And so when you go through a dark night of the soul, this is the part that feels so chaotic and it feels really difficult, but it's actually a beautiful part of the journey. So I want to talk about it, open up with you guys and share some of my experiences. Drop me a comment down below if you can relate and if you've gone through a dark night of the soul. And we're going to talk about healing and the most beautiful part. It's so crazy because a few days ago we had a blackout where I live and the internet went out, right? Everything shut down, the lights, and everything came back up like a few minutes later except for the internet. And I've been having so much trouble. There was just nothing I could do. They couldn't reboot it. They were closed on the weekend. So I ended up going like 3 or 4 days with just no internet. And you guys know I'm into tarot cards, right? So I was like, universe, why is this happening? I work on the internet. We use it for TV and entertainment. I have a daughter as well, right? So we're like, what's up? And tell me why I flipped to the hermit card. And it was saying like taking a break from technology. And so nothing is by accident. Everything happens for a reason. And even my neighbors, all their internet was back up, but mine was out. And so I should have known by now to trust the universe, to surrender to what was happening. And the first day I was so angry, but then after that I started to, by the end of the weekend, I realized, I had a huge realization, like, dang, not only did this happen on purpose, it served a huge purpose for me spiritually. And if I think back to just last week, when we had a new moon, I set an intention, right? We're powerful. The things you write down when you're clear and you speak with purity and certainty, right? These things are going to manifest. We just don't know when. And I set an intention when there was a new moon to shed my past self and to step into a new version of me. Because I've been on this journey for a while, you guys. And so then I forgot about it, right? In true manifestation, I just released it. I let it go. Well, sure enough, the blackout that ended up happening and this dark night of the soul that ended up taking place, like, was a big part of that. When you ask God for something, when you ask the universe for something, it's going to deliver for you. But be careful what you ask for, because you never know the route that you have to take to get there, right? To get what you want. But it's serving your highest good. It's nothing to fear. And the same thing with the dark night of the soul. At the time, it's very much an ego death. So you can be fighting it and it can be so hard, but it's serving you. It's from a place of love. It's your higher self, the universe, God working with you so that you can shed the parts of you that no longer serve you and have a rebirth, a transformation. But if you think about the word rebirth, first there has to be a death, right? So when I had set that intention to shed my past self, there was a process I had to undergo, and I just wasn't aware of it at the time. Right? And so these are the real parts of a spiritual journey, a spiritual awakening that just is part of the process. And so when we talk about spiritual awakening, if you think about being asleep, it's just about your level of consciousness, what you're aware of at the time. A lot of times I can get frustrated, I don't know if you guys can relate, where I'm like, don't you guys see it like this? Like, it's so clear to see, the news is lying to us, like, the systems, the matrix, like, there's mental slavery happening, and like everybody is busting their ass for just to get by, and it doesn't have to be like this. There's war that's ridiculous, like child trafficking, like crazy things happening in the world that are not okay. And I feel like people are just like drinking it away and just ignoring it and just like caring about themselves, individualistic. But I've had to realize that everybody wakes up at their own time, and there's not just one awakening. Like, there's levels, right? The spiritual awakening is about your level of consciousness, what you're aware of. There was a time that I didn't know about those things either. And so everybody's on their own path, on their own journey. But when you dive within yourself and you have an awakening, you know, it's divine timing, divine order, there's purpose behind it, and it's like your soul is ready. Because I think of a spiritual journey as a soul evolution, and I constantly affirm to myself and have to remind myself that we are not our experiences, we're just experiencing them for a soul evolution. We're on a journey here. That's why things are not going to go perfect every time, because we're here to learn how to navigate, trust, have faith, and learn to love, learn to forgive, all these beautiful processes, right? And so a spiritual awakening is about realizations and, you know, seeing things in a different light. And it can be really difficult, because think about being one way your whole life, and then that shifts, that changes. And a lot of times we can create a self-identity, right? When you're on your spiritual path, you learn about the mind, and we get to know ourselves. We learn that your mind is programmed, like, from the time you're in your mom's womb, even generations past, until you're like 7, 8 years old, 10 years old. You're just being fed information. You're like a computer, and you're just like downloading it. And we're not in control of what we're being fed from our environment, from the world. So all this stuff is placed in our minds. And then there's this program, just like a computer, running you on loop in your mind. And that's where your beliefs stem from, your thoughts, your actions, your behaviors, until you become conscious or aware of yourself and why your life is the way it is, why you behave the way you do, why you think the way you do, right? And so then that's the awakening, like the first big awakening, not just yourself, but then also the world. You start to see through the illusions, and you realize we've been lied to by all of the institutions on earth. The truth is like oneness, and we're so powerful. We don't have to go through anyone else to reach God. God is dwelling within us, consciousness, right? So, but a dark night of the soul is when you've had this identity for a while, whatever it is for you, and then there's a shift that needs to take place. So you have to, you start to purge everything you identify with. And you feel like, well, then who am I? I've seen myself this way for so long. I've seen the world from this perspective for so long. And now I'm recognizing that that's not true, or I'm having a shift in my perspective. And so then all these emotions can surface, right? Like anger or fear, uncertainty, not understanding what's going on, because your ego wants to like be in control and be like, no, this is the way it is. This is the way that I see things. But a dark night of the soul is when all that comes crashing down, and you have to reevaluate your own self and just have a change. And you guys, change can be so difficult. And for me personally, I have to be mindful not to go back to like toxic habits, because if I'm going through a turbulent time emotionally, I'll reach for like the fried food, the sugary foods to soothe myself, right? Back in the day, I'd reach for weed all the time because it like numbs you, it soothes you. But I've learned over time that that's just gonna calm you in the moment, and it's like doing harm to your own self. You want to learn to just be present with yourself. Be there with yourself as you're going through this, and just feel all the feelings. Like, I'm always talking about feeling your feelings because it's so important. Otherwise, they get trapped in your body, right? And so for me, this dark night of the soul was me recognizing the parts of my identity that I no longer want to identify with. I no longer want to behave from those subconscious programs that I've had for so long. And it takes like conscious work to do that. a conscious decision. But as we rise in consciousness, as we awaken more, we have the power to do this, and we can shift our world, because our life experience is a reflection of our internal world. So like when you work on yourself and you are in your power and you're working with the universe, co-creating your life, you can shift it like in the way that you want. Because remember, we're not our programs and we're not our experiences. We're the consciousness having this journey. And so we can shed our past selves. We can step into new versions of who we consciously choose to be. It's very freeing, it's very liberating, and that's why it is rooted in love. But it can be a difficult process. For me, you guys, I can be in my bed, like going through it. I saw this video on Instagram. If I can find it, I'll link it up here. And it's like the reality of what a spiritual awakening is. You know, it's not just like rainbows and butterflies and, oh, I feel so good. My third eye is open. I'm connected to source, to God. It's all love and light. It is. But the process, right, can feel like a storm. Dark night of the soul. To me, I see it as a storm. And if you think about growing, think about a tree. A tree needs sunlight, but it also needs rain. It needs like daytime, but it also needs the dark. Like everything works together. So it's not just love and light. It's also the shadows. It's also the icky feelings. Like it's part of the process. And so when you're going through it, it doesn't feel good. Like you could be sulking, pouting, having a temper tantrum. And I've even recognized within myself, like feelings of just the opposite of self-love, of like, because remember I told you, you want to be there with yourself. You don't want to abandon yourself when things like this are happening. Like you want to just feel the feelings, be patient, and allow this process to unfold. Allow your old self to die so that your new self can emerge. But it's necessary, and there's just like, I'm so grateful for it. You know, later on, I'm just like thanking God for it, because when you want to step in, when you want to level up, like when you want to step into a new version of yourself, for me, I've learned that releasing my past self means letting go of so much grief and sorrow that I realized that I had been carrying with me. And so I wanted to share something about healing, you guys, because this channel is Healing Honey, and it's all about knowing yourself, loving yourself, and healing yourself from the inside out. A big part of healing that I'm learning about in my journey is releasing, because once you feel those feelings, once you validate your experiences and you pour love onto it, you don't want to linger in your past for too long. At that point in time, you can then, the last part of healing for me is then letting it go. And it's the most important part. And I used to not like hearing, just let it go, move on, release it, because to me it was invalidating. Like, you're telling me just to forget about it, not address it. There's no healing that can take place that way. That's spiritual bypassing. But where I'm at in my journey now is recognizing that healing, the culmination of healing is letting it go. That is true forgiveness. That is true self-love, because you don't want to carry those burdens with you, and you can't, into a new version of yourself. And so when I set that intention of the new moon, I want to shed my past self. I had seen old pictures of myself, recognized ways I was behaving in my past, limiting beliefs I was carrying, ideas about my self-identity, right? How I see myself deep down inside. That's just no longer serving me. I've learned those lessons already. So the best part then is to not just forgive where I got it from, not just forgive myself, not just change my ways, but let go completely of that version of me. Let it die, let it fade away, let it go, release it. And this is the process of the dark night of the soul: releasing, purging, purifying, cleansing. And it's a process, right? But it's a powerful one. It's like a fire burning through you. And then there's comfort, then there's relief, you know? And so this started for me like on Friday. And by Sunday, when I was driving to work, I was just full of gratitude. I was like, oh my gosh, that's why my internet went out. That's why I got the hermit card. I had to go within solitude. Like I couldn't focus otherwise. No, I don't need to work. I don't need to distract myself. I needed to go through these things to grow. And so that's what I want to share with you guys today. What a dark night of the soul is like, what spiritual awakening is really like, some of the not so pretty parts, what healing is really like, how to release our past self, and how to step into the new version of you. I'm sending you so much love and so much healing and power on your journey. Drop me your comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.